A couple of years ago, I worked 3 jobs at once and it wasn't enough. And the most important thing I learned from this is I think that putting up with something in a relationship with anything when you shouldn't has consequences. So what do I mean by that? I have a friend that is going through some things, and their grandma had said to them, "Just get 3 jobs. Just get 3 jobs." And I thought that was really interesting because I got 3 jobs and it wasn't enough. And previous generations had a very different mindset where they kind of were, if let's say they were working a job and it was taking care of them, and that was fine. But then their kids were working a job, or the economy got bad. Let's say 50 years ago, let's say the boomers or Gen X or something like that. Economy got bad, things were changing, right? And, times got tough. And they were like, okay, it's fine. This job that I'm working right now isn't taking care of me anymore because the economy's changed. I'll go get a second job. Well, when you accept from the job that you're working right now, when you say to that, when you go to that job every day and you get paid a certain amount of money and it's not enough to live, and you keep coming into work every day like I did, I want to consider this thought. I'm not saying I'm right, but it's something to consider. It's a social endorsement that that's okay. So like if I go to a job, I go to a job that doesn't take care of me every single day. Every day I go into this job and it doesn't pay me enough to live. Then when I go in every day, I'm just saying to that job, yeah, this is fine. This is fine. Especially if I go to them and say that it's not fine and they go, well, there's nothing we can do. And then I go, okay, and I just keep going to the job every day. Then I'm telling the job that it's fine. And you can see how the job goes, oh, it's fine that we're not paying you enough to live. Oh, okay, then we won't. Okay. I mean, I don't want to get into like super relational dialectic type stuff, but in a relationship, if someone's being abusive, like it could be a family member, significant other, doesn't matter. If you're in a relationship with someone and they are being abusive to you, I mean, even if it's an accident for like one time, like they say something really mean, you're like, oh, that hurt my feelings or whatever. It's one thing. But if someone is being terrible to you in a relationship and you just don't do anything about it, the person's just going to go, oh, okay, I can just take advantage of you. That's fine. And so I think over the last, I don't know how many decades at this point, the modern world has gotten to the point where these companies are just like, we don't have to take care of people. It's fine. These people can just go get a second job. And if that's not enough, they'll just go get a third job. And I think before, different generations had different beliefs about their ability to actually reach things like retirement and reach things like financial freedom and success, right? And so they believed that if they actually got 3 jobs, they'd be able to afford to live. And they did. If they got 3 jobs, it would actually do it. It would actually be enough to live. Hopefully, I'd like to assume, generally speaking, back then, for people like Gen X's and Boomers, I'd like to think that that was likely enough to live, right? But now we're at a point where companies don't pay enough to live, and it's not necessarily even the result of the company being bad, so to speak. It's just the economy is just a mess. But I'm saying that by nature of staying at a job that doesn't pay us enough to live, we're endorsing the fact that that's okay. We're saying that's fine. It's fine that you're not paying me enough to live. Okay, so now where's the problem with this? Well, we can't all just quit our jobs. I mean, we still have to live. We still have to eat food. And so it's a problem because on the one hand, it would be like, well, all of us just quit our jobs. Everybody that's not making enough to live right now, quit your jobs. Like, that would be really nice and fun and exciting. And we'll see how long the world lasts without us, right? But the problem with that is that it doesn't actually fix the problem immediately. It just causes a bunch of chaos and a bunch of weird people on Twitter freaking out, right? So like that doesn't really solve the problem, right? So it's less about the idea of everybody just quitting their jobs. It's more about trying to find a solution to the fact that we're in the situation. Like, I just see the world in a situation where all jobs that aren't taking care of people and people going to that job every day is that person saying, because they have to live. That person is saying, this is fine. This is fine that this job isn't taking care of me. This is fine because they have to live. And so everybody that's at a job like that right now is in what we would argue to be something approximating potentially an abusive relationship, so long as the job, unless the job is remotely tolerable because the people are nice or something like that. Like I had that a little bit, but I think you catch what I'm saying. So what I did is I decided for myself, because I have just a different set of, I don't know, like I was very fortunate to experience freelance entrepreneurship and contract work before, I was comfortable saying, I'm going to go do this myself and leave my job. A lot of people don't have that luxury. A lot of people have families and relationships and responsibilities that are different, and they don't have support systems, and so they're stuck. And it sucks because it's like, that's not something that you can fix outright. But I do have something to consider. And there is something that I wanted to sort of say, which is this. Maybe you can do it on your own. So, like, think of the job that you're at right now, and think of what you're doing, and think of how much it sucks, and think about the fact that it's not paying you enough to live. And if you got a second job, it wouldn't take care of that. And if you got a third job, you would just be flat out dead. You wouldn't sleep. You just wouldn't function. And there would be no end to it, right? And it's like, if maybe there is a world where it doesn't have to be this way. And maybe things have to get worse before they can get better. And maybe there's something that you would rather be doing instead of that, which is what I was doing. I was like, I would rather be doing anything other than this, other than the 3 jobs I'm working. And so I tried something different, right? And it's like, maybe it's worth it to try something else. And maybe it's not, I don't know. But maybe it is. Maybe it's like, hey, maybe I try to start a side hustle and only do the one job and then a side hustle that I'm eventually going to scale into something that I can do full time and get away from the stupid job that isn't paying me enough to live so that I can pay me enough to live. See, maybe. And not everybody can just run businesses, because we can't all, in the same way everyone can't be a YouTuber, and in the same way that everyone can't, be a photographer, everyone can't all provide to the same market, because it just doesn't work that way. There are people, I think, out there that know that there is something bigger for them that they're afraid to chase because they don't think they can do it, and they just don't know if it's worth it. I'm telling you, it's worth it. It is not worth being that miserable. It's so not worth it. Like, life is, your value in this world is so much more than just like the dollar amount that's on your paycheck and your ability to contribute to the labor market. It's like we've done such a stupid thing, such a terrible thing to humans over the last, I don't know how many years, where we've just said to people, your value as a human being is your ability to produce and your ability to contribute to the labor market. Elon Musk said something like this, which isn't actually outright bad, but it's going to prove my point, which is that you are paid in proportion to the problems you solve. And so it's like, as a human being, your value is in proportion to how many problems you solve. How stupid and unfair is that? Because on one hand, I think that people that are built to solve problems can do that. But on the other, it's like, but there are people that literally can't. And they have a great reason why they can't. They have some physiological reasons, health concerns, mental issues, a family or a financial situation that prevents them from doing that. And so they're limited to only one metric of production, which is some kind of job that they absolutely hate. And that's what they're stuck with. And it's like, then what do you do about that? And I kind of just, I think that, especially here in the United States, we've really done an unfortunate thing with people where we've really put their value as a human being into their ability to produce and to solve problems. And it's an interesting shift that we're starting to have, I think, as people, where we're going, I feel worthless. And it's like they feel worthless because they don't feel like they're producing enough in the world, and they don't feel like they're they feel like because they're not making enough money, and they're not solving enough problems or something like that, they just feel worthless. And it's like, the world doesn't have this. Just the whole thing's a mess. It just doesn't have to be this way, And instead, I feel like the best solution, the solution to this whole mess. I know this is all such a rant, and I'm sorry. The solution to this whole mess that I've been trying to sort of work through, and what I've been sort of saying up to this point, is this. I have basically decided that my value as a human being is not in proportion to my ability to produce and to solve problems. That is not what I've done. I have decided, personally for me, that my ability, my value as a human being, personally, is in my capacity to give. So my capacity to give to other people, and my capacity to give to others, whether financially or through advice or wisdom or just being with other people, friends, whatever, my value in this world is not based on is not valued in proportion to the problems I solve. It's valued in proportion to the ability and capacity I have to give. The bigger that capacity, the more human I feel and more value as a human I feel that instantiates me on this earth. And I feel like that's me. And I think that if people can find ways, maybe that is someone else's and someone else can really relate to that, and that's awesome. And I feel like if people can find ways to sort of find out a way to reevaluate their value as a human, and say, I'm more than just a job. I'm more than just a stupid paycheck from Amazon. I'm more than, just just this job. I'm more than this. But I don't know what that looks like. It's like, maybe consider yourself within the spectrum of all humans that's ever existed and say, what makes you stand apart? And maybe at first you'd say, well, nothing. And then you'd start to think about it and go, well, actually, I get to decide that for myself, don't I? And the answer is absolutely, because no one can take that away from you. And so it's like, you decide what makes you worth being here. And then you say, I'm going to live that out in whatever way I can and find a way to sort of make that my goal. And I would like to hope that whatever that is would pull away from the 9 to 5 that I'm doing or you're doing or whatever, if that makes sense. I know that's sort of a long-winded explanation, but essentially it's like, you shouldn't have to suffer through a 9 to 5 meaninglessly and live in that abusive relationship with an employer that isn't taking care of you. There has to be a way out of it. There has to be a way out of it. I am personally of the notion that there has to be a way out of it. Because life sucks, right? But we have to do something about it. It's like, we're all dealt a crap hand. Every one of us that's in that situation right now. That's last on every job posting, every job board, hundreds, thousands of applications for jobs, and no one cares. It's like, life sucks, but what are we going to do about it? It's like, I choose to believe that life doesn't have to be based on the proportion to the problems I solve. It's not based on my employment. It's not based on the outcome of my work that I do. It's got to be based on something else, And so that's where I am. There has to be a way to do that. And I think if people start navigating the maybes and navigating maybe I don't have to do this. Maybe it doesn't have to be this way. And maybe if I'm willing to have things be worse before they get better, maybe that's worth it. And like, that leap, I'll say this and I'll be done. But like, people that have taken the leap of faith, like, that have said this isn't worth it, that have quit jobs, that have moved, that have ended relationships, that have done really hard things for themselves and their family, like, and then end up successful, every single one of them doesn't regret it. Every single one. And you could make the case, of course they don't, because they're successful. And of course that's the case. And of course they're going to say they do it again and all that. And I would say the same thing because I'm in the same boat. But like, maybe that's the right call. Maybe taking that leap and saying, I really don't want to have to do this stupid crap anymore. Like, maybe that is the right call. I don't know. It depends on every person, but I think that it shouldn't have to be this way. But we have to figure out what we're supposed to do about it.